I'm in this group. Is this one? Yeah. I made a post. I don't think I'll be able to find my actual post. Give me a second. No. So I have to just do it this way. I wanted to show the actual post. No, not that one. I guess this is close enough. But I made this post. I'm not a Christian. I'm not an atheist. What is empirical belief? My question for the members of this group. And basically, the reason why I made the post is the relationship between empirical evidence and belief. Belief is not based on anything empirical. And as soon as you have sufficient evidence for your understanding, it stops being a belief and starts to be an experience. So if you have an experience, experience is empirical, and if you base your understanding of God on your beliefs, and you have to believe in God, then how do you experience God, or how do you know empirically that God exists? So I asked the question, what is empirical belief? Because religion is built on ignorance and innocence. And if you stay ignorant, then you become stupid. And if you maintain your innocence, then you're supposed to be a good person, but not having experiences to ignorance so that you can have a belief system is counterproductive to being alive and living a life, right? If you hide yourself just so that you can maintain your innocence, then you're not actually living. And if you find yourself in situations, if you're driving down the street in a car and you accidentally hit somebody, you can no longer be innocent. You are going to be accountable for murdering someone, but it's not like it's your fault. You will be accountable, you will be responsible, but your actions aren't deliberate. So since your actions aren't actually deliberate, you don't have to be at fault for the thing that you are accountable for. But in man's laws, you will still be held to a standard of society. Hi, welcome to the stream. So since you will be still held to a standard of society by man's laws, and you can no longer say that you're innocent of not committing murder. Right now I'm talking about, I'm in a group on Facebook called Atheists versus Creationists. It's the same argument that has been being had when I was a kid myself. And I asked a question about empirical belief in that group. And I was just kind of going over how ignorance and innocence works and how that correlates to the way we structure our belief systems when it comes to having faith and believing in God versus understanding empirical things and having an objective reasoning position for what we're doing, right? If I told you that I'm flying right now, you wouldn't believe it. If I said just have faith that I'm flying right now, you still wouldn't believe it. Empirically, I'm driving a car down the street, right? But for some reason, we're okay with being told that God is this mysterious entity that works in these mysterious ways, and our relationship with God is inherently this or that, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with the idea of God being an inherently personal thing that occurs individually with us as an aspect of our mind and our individual perceptions of reality, and how we individually process our own internal monologues and our own internal imaginations. I don't have a problem with that. I don't challenge that. The issue I have is the idea that you have the right to tell me and judge me and define who I am based on evidence that you can't produce. That's that's where I have the issue with. Like, what gives you the right to know who I am, what I'm about, what type of person I'm gonna be, etc., etc. Always, hey, welcome to the stream. Always in a negative. Like, the vast majority of people that associate themselves with spirituality, that have a judgmental mindset, are always judging people as bad, wrong, and evil. You never see people with Christian backgrounds that judge people as being decent, honest, kind, respectful, humble people. You don't, there's no people that are in these religions that are running around claiming that people are awesome and that they're great and that they're amazing individuals and that they're awesome human beings. It's always the opposite of that, which is why I was like, what is empirical belief? Because as a scientist, I don't have a problem with acknowledging that people are decent. People are decent all the time. People are kind all the time. We only focus on assholes that are threatening our lives, but the vast majority of our experiences in life are actually 100% chill. They're just decent. That's the reason why racism fucking sucks. Because if I'm walking down the street, minding my own business, and you want to be racist, why do I have to be subjected to that? You don't know me on a personal level, so why do I have to be subjected to that? Why can't I just be a person walking down the street, living my life, enjoying the world? Why do you get to have a negative opinion about me based on experiences you have with people that look like you, defining me as the problem? I don't understand that. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's weird that all of these countries all over this world have these religions with these deities that they use to justify their wrongs. And we just are just okay with it. Like, we're just fine that because if somebody walks up to you and disrespects you and says they love Jesus, for some reason they get a pass. Why? Why? Because you have to be able to control your emotions. If someone can come up to you and say something that makes you freak out and feel some type of way, they control you. That's only half true, because if somebody walks up to you, I have agency, right? If I walk up to you and you say, hey, can you give me some space? I should be civilized enough to say, okay, I can see that my presence is negatively affecting you. Let me give you some space. All this space. Let me give you some space. Why is that hard? Why is it hard for me to humble myself for your benefit, right? So when that same person walks up to, let's just keep it me. So now when I walk up to you and I'm being an asshole to you, why do you have to tolerate my assholery, my disrespect, my antagonistic energy? Why do you have to tolerate that? Why don't you, as another person on this planet, have the right to say, I don't appreciate the way you're treating me. I need you to step away from me. And here's the most important part. As soon as I refuse to leave you and you leave me, why don't you then have the right as a human being to defend yourself if I continue to follow you? Because the correct way to behave as a civilized person is, if I find myself in a threatening situation with another human, I should distance myself from that threat. Because I don't know if that threat is legitimately a threat or if it's my own internal biases working against me, right? So when I use my agency to humble myself enough to take the passive road of engaging in flight to leave a situation that makes me uncomfortable, the thing which I am moving away from does not have the right in a civilized society to follow me. You don't have the right to follow me after I've expressed to you that your intentions and your position and your presence is causing me anxiety and distress. You don't have the right to follow me. Now I need to be able to transition from being a civilized human being to an aggressive defender of my own agency. And that's where it falls apart. Because at the end of the day, when I say, hey, I don't need you to bother me, leave me alone, and you continue to engage with me, and then I walk away from you, when I walk away from you, that should be the end of that conflict. If I walk away from you and then you start following me, why don't I have the right to defend myself at that point? Why is that a thing in society? Why is it like, oh, the person wasn't trying to de-escalate the situation? Like, this idea that someone has the right to treat you like shit and you're supposed to sit down and be humble and be respectful while you're being antagonized, when we all knows what it feels like to have somebody disrespect us. You know what it feels like to be respected, and you know what it feels like to be disrespected. So the fact that you believe that somebody has the right to talk to you any kind of way and you don't have the agency to say, don't talk to me that way, you're supposed to just sit there and just take that shit. That's the problem that I have with religion. Because at the end of the day, we have accountability and responsibility, and you should be able to have a discourse amongst each other. That's what the police are for. I get that that's what the police are for, but while the police are showing up to the situation, you still have to be able to have the right and the agency to separate and distance yourself from a conflict. It's like working in customer service. At the end of the day, you got to pay bills. Well, working in customer service is different, because when you volunteer to get money exchanged for customers that are working for you, it's different. And the best example I can give to you personally is when I was working at McDonald's and this woman came through the drive-through being a B word, and she was all the stuff we're talking about. And I was like, well, the only thing I can do, ma'am, is either give you the food, make the food over for you, and I need you to pull forward because I got to keep the line moving, or I can give you a refund. Those are the only options I have. And she's like, well, then just give me my money back. And I was like, okay, give me 1 second. I went back to the store, got her money, gave her a refund, and then she's like, well, where's my fucking food? And I was like, you don't get your fucking food. You got a refund. Oh, well, I well, nothing to apologize for. I no longer owe you anything. I gave you your money back. I no longer owe you anything. I've already dealt with your disrespect. I've already was respectful. I was already humble. I was already operating from a level of being a civilized person. And now that you have your money back, there is no longer a debt that this establishment and that me as a person working in the establishment owes to you. So you can go. You can leave now. You've already established that the customer service and the quality of your experience has been under what it should be, and now it's time for you to leave. Have a good day. That's the way it will work with customer service. Someone said, when you humble yourself, it's for your benefit, young brother. Humbling yourself is only for your benefit to reduce further humility is meant to de-escalate, right? If you ever watch, like, people, when someone is super aggressive and someone is super passive, humans are animals, right? The main reason why we invented the word ego is because when it comes to the idea of humility, the person that's always in a position of being humble is always the person that is stronger. The stronger person is always the one that humbles themselves to the weaker person, because the stronger person doesn't need to validate themselves to the weaker person. And the weaker person is always the one that's bringing this unnecessary energy. The problem in society is that we allow these weak individuals to have this energy of wanting to aggravate, antagonize, and instigate conflict, and the humbler is supposed to constantly humble themselves. So the behavior and the condition of that causes these weaker individuals to keep sticking their chest out, because we have eliminated the right for us to put them in check. I'm not saying we should be punching people in the face. I'm saying we have eliminated the right to put people in check. Sometimes when somebody is disrespecting you, you have to put them in their place to remind them that your behavior is not acceptable. What you're doing is not right. How you're behaving is not acceptable. And since you didn't learn these lessons from your parents, I have to remind you from my parent energy of me being a child of why you shouldn't behave the way you're behaving. And for some reason in society, when you are approached with somebody that is aggressive and you defend yourself from their aggression with aggression, they attack you, even though the instigator was the one that instigated the original conflict to begin with. And it's universal because of that fucking religion. It's universal because that's how you keep the slaves in control. So the masters can tell the slaves to do things that contradicts equality and unity, and then the slaves will always have to be obedient and listen. They will always have to do what is said and not what is done, right? And it infringes on our individual rights as people, and that's why we live in the world we live in. Because at the end of the day, I 100% agree we shouldn't be punching each other in the face. But I also agree that when you engage in the correct steps of de-escalation as a civilized person, we have the right to fucking punch each other in the fucking face. We just do. Sometimes you have to just do that shit. And if we allowed that to happen more often in childhood between children, they wouldn't become asshole adults when they become older. It just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. Because if you really think about it, when young children don't have enough words to figure out how to say the things they're trying to say, they don't get to physically engage with each other. They don't get to learn the limitations of physical aggression and how it really doesn't actually solve their problems or actually comes to any type of correlating discourse. And then these people tend to grow up as passive aggressive childhood adults they don't have the proper shaping and the proper mindsets, especially for people that are privileged enough to get whatever they want in life. You keep giving somebody everything they want in their life from when they're a kid to when they turn 18, and then they get tossed into the world, and the world is like, well, you can't have bread because you don't have enough money for bread. Well, I always get what I want, and then this is when they start becoming extra hostile. I went to the military at the age of 34, so I grew up in the civilian sector. This is how life works. The whole thing about life is I'm an American, but the whole world is governed by high school. It's all these high school cliques and groups that are self-governing and self-regulating, but it's always self-governing and self-regulating outside of the context of order. It's outside the context of order. Like when I go to work and I want to do my job and I got people around me trying to get me to understand, like, if you don't do your job, then we don't have to work. And it's like, but I'm not here not to work. I'm here to get a paycheck so I can pay my bills and my utilities. And I have the adversity of dealing with racism and discrimination. So I have to work so that I can get compensated. If I don't work and we don't make the company money, they're going to send me home first, not you. So I have to do these things. So I get all this unnecessary pushback from people like, I don't understand why you're working. Because I have to pay my fucking bills. It's not a hard thing to understand. I need to pay my bills. The way that I get money to pay my bills is I have to show up and I have to work. You might be able to stand over there and do nothing, but I have to work. But you want validation for being this awesome employee. But when I show up and actually do some actual work and they're acknowledging that, yeah, Emerson works, Paul does a great job working, and you're like, y'all used to talk about me. Well, you're not fucking working. So the validation conflict of you're mad because I'm doing my job and you want to be praised for being who you are, that's the dynamic. That's where like the civic side versus the military side, they intersect. Because in the army, in the military, you're gonna have to work no matter what. Well, we all family on the planet, they make Earth into a 5-star luxury planet utopia for a global family, Indian wages, salaries, human trafficking, animal slavery, homeless, war, and sickness. That's actually my goal. It's a difficult thing to do, but that's actually my goal. The Microsoft life system is actually meant to address those very issues. And there's something I'm moving toward. I just have to deal with a lot of present day adversities, but there's something I'm moving toward. And once I get to that point, then I will be implementing the infrastructure for that. That's why I run every 3 days, 2 miles, because there is a bigger thing. There is a larger above this. It just takes time to get from where you are to where you're trying to go, and how do you stay focused? That's the reason why I'm building those axioms and those postulates. That's the reason for my 2 cent Runday. I run every 3 days, in spite of all of the distractions of the world, to stay consistent and to show how you can actualize what it is you're trying to do. And I honestly what I understand is that it doesn't make any sense right now, but in 4 years, it's been 2 years since I started running. 2 more years, it'll be 4 years. And people that are 18 and 19 and 20 watching this in 4 years, when they're 20, 21, 22, 23, and they're reflecting back on the world and their brains mature, they're going to be like, all the stuff that he was saying when he was 41, 42, 43, I'm starting to understand it now. I'm starting to see it in society. I get it now. Like, I understand. I'm having this experience that he was talking about now, and it makes sense now. I was arguing and fighting when I was talking to him from ignorance, but now that I have the experience and I see the way that this went, now I understand. I'm a 24-year-old Army veteran. Thank you for your service, and I appreciate your support, and thank you for your service as well. But yeah, let me I could rant and rave forever. Is there any other questions before I go do this run? I don't talk during runs, and I've got a lot of homework and writing and stuff to do once I'm done. So this rant will have to come to an end. I have to get back to being a functional adult. But this discourse was great. I'll see you guys in 3 more days. Hopefully I will become more focused in my in my in my conversations. It's just got to get from where I am to where I need to be. And I do have plans and strategies on how to fix the planet in spite of the lameness of the world. But you need a proper foundation before you can build a house. Or I should say, you need a proper foundation before you can build infrastructure. As always, my name is Paul Emerson, and let's get this run. Let's do it. The house telling you to close your eyes. I can't even trust myself. It's hello. A little talk. Soon it will be over and murder it all out. And full of love. I don't know if I am alright. Ship will carry our bodies safe to shore. So listen to the words I say. It seems so sound the same. So the truth may vary this. Ship will carry our bodies safe to shore. Wait. if she disappears, all that's left is the ghost of you. Now it's hard, nothing we can do. What? Wait. Excuse me. Thank you. Wait.